photos of San Francisco hedonistic lesbian community of the 90s. Phyllis Christopher said, quote, "Lesbians are told they're ugly and they don't fit in." Close quote. Christopher is a photographer who relocated to San Francisco from the small industrial town of Buffalo, New York in 1988 and found herself in the midst of a civil rights movement. While the AIDS epidemic was in full force, lesbian women protested for visibility against centuries of erasure, oppression, and cruelty. In a period of censorship and homophobia, Phyllis took on the radical task of documenting her community in the most authentic way, saying, quote, "I worked very hard to photographically depict what I was seeing in of these beautiful women," close quote. Some of Phyllis' most iconic images emerged from the dark photos taken in the gritty 90s clubs, lovers embracing a graffitied bathrooms or smoking on the streets. A woman singing with her strap on, poking out the zipper of her jeans, but the photographer also turned her lens to the protests happening outside. Women standing in solidarity with ACT UP, who called for direct action, medical research, treatment, and legislative change. And Queer Nation, an organization that targeted culture homophobia with kiss-ins and calls for increased LGBTQ plus visibility. Unbelievable. Crazy.
Well, I love this story, and I have to tell you that one of my favorite pictures was actually the stripper with the dollar sign all over. It reminded me of old, past times. But in realness,
like Saturday,
like
like yesterday when Patty was. No, I'm just kidding. That's I was at a Guardian visit. Anyway, in all seriousness, I think it's for me when I was reading this story or listening to you tell us the story, in the 70s, I really didn't think that us lesbians were out there doing these kind of things, quite frankly. I thought that maybe the lesbian thing was something of the 90s. I am an 80s child, so in my mind, this stuff wasn't happening.
It wasn't invented until you were able to partake. Okay, I just want to make sure that we know.
Isn't that strange? So it's great that there's actually someone who photographed these things, and they're part of our history, and that we could go back to see where our lesbians from before kind of like paved the way for us to
Oh,
be
girl,
where
we
are.
paved the way, that's for sure.
With a big old cement truck, let me tell you.
Having lived in San Francisco, New York during the 90s and here in South Florida, I mean, I've been a part of all of these, just radical queer movement happening in the underground scene, and lesbians were so free and expressive, and I just love, I love how these, this photographer really captures that rawness, because, now we're a little too pretty, I think, but back in the day, we would be as, as dirty little pigs, just like the boys, the boys think that the lesbians were so prim and proper, but, the girls were getting down, and we were fetishy, and we were, sex positive, and we had fun, and we didn't put ourselves in that little box, right? No pun intended.
I love these pictures. I love the black and white pictures. I just love that. That's like timeless, and just kind of like what Josie said. I love that they show all these wonderful pictures, but they don't look so far-fetched. They look like parties that we've been to ourselves,
that's
right?
Exactly right. Parties in Miami.
And look, and I lived in San Francisco too, and those women, the community is so great there.
But this was a big thing. Like back in the 90s, you could go into a coffee shop, you could go into, a bookstore, and you could see these photographs on postcards and greeting cards, and it was part of the, part of what I grew up around. And when I came out, it was the norm, to walk into someone's house and see art that looked like that, or an entire coffee book that had these great pictures, and again, let you feel comfortable on where you are, right?
I think that'll be the next piece of art I buy, is a woman standing with her strap on.
I love it.
I think it'll go great, right next to the dog with a cigar in his mouth.
Is that going to be a sculpture, or is that going to be a photograph?
Life size.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus